Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Once again, it's time for the Kevin Miller Money. Win Kevin Miller's cash on KIDO Talk Radio. Our code word today is PURSE. PURSE. Make sure you listen at 6:05, 8:05, and 3:05 during the Sean Hannity Experience. When you hear the code word PURSE, you in fact type those into the website, KIDOTalkRadio.com. The more words you get, the higher the probability that you could win $5,000 on KIDO Talk Radio. Joining us now, an American hero, Dr. Jerome Corsi. Dr. Corsi, welcome back.
Kevin, it's great to be back with you. Thank you.
Well, Dr. Corsi, this is going to be one of those where I go, say very little and just hear what you have to say. Your thoughts on your last few months, sir?
Well, I mean, first of all, I feel really vindicated now that we have, the Mueller's finished and we have his report and there's no collusion. And for me personally, no more indictments. I mean, I've been living since November, since Thanksgiving, under the threat that Mueller wanted to put me in prison. When I refused his plea deal, they offered me this, just, read this plea deal in front of a judge, just admit you committed this crime, and you won't have to go to jail. Otherwise, we'll prosecute you and you'll be convicted for 25 years. Well, I'm 72 years old. But I told Mueller to take a hike because the testimony he wanted me to plead to, the crime I committed, was testimony that they'd allowed me to amend. I said, that's fraudulent, and I won't do it. I won't lie to stay out of prison. I won't put my hand on a Bible in front of God, the judge, and lie to stay out of prison. And that's what Mueller was requiring me to do. And so until this weekend, is the FBI going to break down the door and arrest Dad like they did Roger Stone? Well, I couldn't say no for months. It's been sheer nightmare to live like this.
Well, and Dr. Corsi, you did something that I think caught Mueller and the crew off guard. You went public with this.
Yes. In fact, I wrote a book. I said, you guys want to mess around with me? I don't know. I thought the FBI was pretty good profilers. I've written 22 books since 2014. They hated my books. They told me the prosecutors were all, the Hillary Clinton's hand marks were all over this. They hated my books. They hated my religion. They ridiculed me. We got subpoenaed on August 28th, and 2 FBI unannounced show up at the door with a subpoena, and it's like your life changes. And in Washington, the FBI picks you up to your hotel in they use their own vehicles. They don't want to be seen in these black SUVs and followed by the press. They bring you to an undisclosed, unmarked FBI building in southeast Washington. They come in through the garage, so you can't be photographed, and they put you in a safe room. They take away your cell phones and your laptops. You can't keep no electronics. Bring you up to a closed-in conference room with no windows inside the building. Can't even leave to go to the restroom without the FBI accompanying you to the door. And in come 3 of the prosecutors from Mueller's team, 6 to 9 FBI. They sit on one side of the table with the prosecutors in the middle, and you're facing them on the other side with your attorney. And then they start grilling you for hours. And I went in to cooperate. I asked my attorney, I said, they can break down the door and ransack the house and take my computers. Why don't we just give them to them? So I gave them my computers. I gave them external hard drive backup systems. We gave them voluntarily my cell phone, my email addresses. I helped the FBI in Quantico over the phone download my email accounts that took double verification. I had to verify their access to the accounts. Made it easy for them, and I went in to cooperate. But yet, because I wouldn't give them what they wanted. It was a lie. They now want me to be a criminal. They wanted me to connect Roger Stone to Julian Assange, and they were sure I could do it. But the problem is I've never met Julian Assange. I've never talked to Julian Assange or WikiLeaks in any way. I've never had any contact with them. So what they wanted me to do, what they were convinced was the last linchpin of their case, with once they got me, they were going to be able to prove collusion. But they made a mistake. They assumed I was the link to Assange, and I wasn't.
Dr. Jerome Corsi joining us here, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And Dr. Corsi, as we've talked about over the years since Unfit for Command, we would expect this under Obama, not under President Trump. You detail the interrogations. You detail what Mueller was trying to do to you in your new book, do you not?
Yeah, exactly. I was writing this book as it was going on. So in writing the book, I felt like I was going to go to prison. I say that. That's the Kafka experience, and I explain it. And in July and August 2016, I took, it was my 25th wedding anniversary. My wife and I took the family to Italy. And I had time. I figured out on my own that Assange, WikiLeaks, had John Podesta's emails, he was the chairman of Hillary Clinton's campaign. I had a good idea what was in the emails, and I figured out these were going to be dropped in October as an October surprise, made public by WikiLeaks, and they were going to be devastating to Hillary. I told this to Roger Stone. The FBI had all my phone calls, all my emails, an 8-inch thick book on me that they wouldn't let me see. They researched every aspect of my life. And I said, well, I figured that out myself. WikiLeaks didn't tell me, because they thought if I connected Roger Stone to Assange, then Roger could coordinate with Assange. This was collusion, and he could tell Assange when to drop these stolen emails to best hurt Hillary. And Roger Stone was in touch with Donald Trump throughout the campaign, and that would have been their collusion. But the problem was I was not in touch with Assange at all. And for over 20 hours of the 40 hours, 2 months, the FBI would quiz you. They would send me home. They would bring me back. They would all act up. They'd get out of the room, stomp out all the 9 FBI, the 3 prosecutors. They'd leave the room angry. They'd call my attorney into the other conference room. I'd be left in this room with no windows, all alone for an hour or longer. And they'd say, we're going to put him in prison because he lied to us. And my attorney said, he didn't lie to you. He's got a bad memory. He didn't review his 2016 emails. He forgot about a couple emails. That's not lying. That's not intentionally giving you information he knew to be false to mislead you. He forgot. So I said, go and review your emails. When I reviewed these emails, I came back. I said I was wrong. But, that wasn't good enough for them. When I couldn't give them what they wanted, they determined they were going to break me, and that I was going to finally give up the contact to Assange, and their case was going to be made. And since I wouldn't do it, they were threatening to put me in prison the rest of my life. They offered me a plea deal. They told the world that they were going to put me in prison. Oh, I said no. I said at Thanksgiving last year, I told them, take your plea deal and take a hike. I showed the world what the deal was they wanted me to plead to, which they hated. I wrote this book, Silent No More, which they hated. I got it out first as an ebook, so people could hear it during this going on, and now it's a hardcover, and they still hate the book.
And Dr. Corsi, for people tuning in all the time on KIDO Talk Radio, what's the name of the book again, sir?
Silent No More, and the subtitle, How I Became a Political Prisoner of Mueller's Witch Hunt, and it's under my name, Corsi, C-O-R-S-I, Jerome Corsi, on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com, and we feature it on my website, CorsiNation.com.
Dr. Corsi, was it your faith and your family's faith in God that got you through this?
Yes.
You talked about this earlier, how the feds would be outside your house under the threat of not only bankruptcy, which we'll get into, but they could burst through your doors at any time?
Yes. And cars watching our house. We had CNN parked outside for days waiting to see if we'd be arrested. It was my faith. I'm not here for an earthly purpose. I'm not going to lie before God to a crime I didn't commit. They can put me in prison the rest of my life. I'm not going to give testimony on Donald Trump that's a lie in order to save myself. I wouldn't do it. They were sure I would after they broke me. They were sure I was old and scared and would do anything to stay out of prison. The opposite's true. They put St. Paul in prison. He wrote books. And I figured I could do the same. And my wife woke up one morning and she said, that she would rather visit me in prison the rest of my life than have me not be the man she married. And when she said that, I realized that, because, you face it, they indicted me. It could have cost me a couple $1 million on legal bills. And then they would go after you for multiple accounts. I'd face a jury in D.C. that would hate me. And they said they were going to try to get me put in prison for 25 years. Well, at 72 years old, that'd be a lifetime sentence. And I said, go ahead and do it. I'm not going to lie. Refuse. And I went public with that on television with One American News on the Monday after Thanksgiving. I hadn't even told my lawyers I was going to refuse the plea deal. I didn't, that if I had accepted the plea deal, I would have been a criminal. I said, but I've got securities licenses and, and insurance licenses I've held for 25 years. And they said, well, you can't tell the regulators because it'll be secret. I said, well, wait a minute. I mean, I've got an obligation to tell the regulators if anything changes my status such that I might not hold a securities insurance license. So I had to lie, tell the judge I wrote a script about a crime I didn't commit, and then I had to break regulations that only a criminal would give you a plea deal like that. And so I wouldn't agree to it.
Our great friend, Dr. Jerome Corsi, Silent No More, his new book, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Dr. Corsi, based on your research and the comments that are made public, going back to the collusion delusion that you and the Mueller report that you've been sucked into, what do you make? And again, you've researched, you've been a fact checker, a truth finder for years when you have Lisa Page saying to McCabe, look, there's nothing there. Now the disclosure, they were told, look, back off of the Democrats. Obama wants to know everything you guys are doing. James Comey leaking, admitting that to Congress. You've got McCabe, Bruce Orr, Strzok, Page. Can you give us some perspective on all of this, what it means in this?
When I wrote Killing the Deep State, which is my most recent bestseller, I wrote it in 2017, I said this was a deep state coup d'etat. And it had been planned by Hillary and John Podesta, with John Brennan and the British intelligence leading the way, and that it had penetrated through the FBI and the corrupt FBI under Comey, previously under Loretta Lynch, these operatives like Mueller, who was involved in the Uranium One. He delivered, as FBI director, uranium to Moscow for Hillary on a 15-minute visit to Moscow in 2009 that nobody knew about. And I said that basically I predicted when I wrote Killing the Deep State that this would have three phases. One, we'd have to get the end of Mueller, and Mueller would fail. Now that's happened. I said, number two, there'll be a Trump counterattack. That's beginning. Trump is saying, how did this FISA court begin? How did all this happen? And by the way, I filed a $350 million civil suit against Mueller in federal district court in Washington, D.C. It's Corsi v. Mueller. If you want to look it up, it's there. And I intend to win that case, especially since they didn't indict me, which meant that the plea deal they gave me, they knew they couldn't prove in court. And the only way I could be a criminal would be if they scared me enough to admit a crime I hadn't committed, which I refused to do. This is the FBI, Department of Justice under Obama, and this deep state are operating in a criminal fashion, and I want to expose it. And I said the third phase, I said it's going to take Donald Trump the next 2 years to expose this deep state, and at the end of it, the American people are going to realize that this was the most scandalous issue in American this was treason. This is this is the first time since the Revolutionary War that we've had treason. Benedict Arnold, in an institutionalized deep state fashion. And the American people have got to realize that the tables are going to turn. Comey was part of the cover-up. And the cover-up now is blown because they couldn't. And, Kevin, if they'd broken me and I'd said, here's my connection to Julian Assange, which I didn't have, this report would have turned out very different. That's why they spent so much time. That's why they tried so hard to break me. That's why they ruined our lives, tried to make my life miserable, my family miserable for 7 months. Put us through. I don't have a job right now. I don't have any current income right now. I've got to, I can't retire. I've got to go back and pay a couple $100,000 in legal bills. And I've raised money in a defense fund, but, McCabe puts out a defense fund, he gets $500,000 overnight. It's very hard for us as conservatives to raise money the same way. Our side just doesn't contribute. So now I'm in a stage where we've got to, but I'm still, I feel vindicated because it's clear that I did not have, I was telling the truth all along, and that these were criminals running the Justice Department. We made a huge mistake under Obama to allow our justice system to be politicized and weaponized, and I'm a victim of that.
Our great friend, Dr. Jerome Corsi, joining us, Silent No More, his new book, Killing the Deep State as well. I urge you to go out to get it, to support Dr. Corsi, who we've known for many, many years, since his book on John Kerry back in the day. Dr. Corsi, going back to Comey, was it his idea to do this, or was it McCabe, or do you believe, as you said earlier, it was all emanating from Clinton and Obama?
It was Clinton and Obama. And the Russia idea originated with Clinton and Podesta. Because, by the way, it's the Democrats, these deep state socialists, tend to accuse the other side of what they're doing. I think there's ample evidence, and Peter Schweitzer did a great job in his report from Russia with Money of documenting that Hillary and John Podesta and Tony Podesta made millions under the table from Russia and the reset. Well, Hillary was Secretary of State selling U.S. military technology, classified technology, to Russia, including this hypersonic technology the Russians used to make a missile. We're still catching up. Hillary sold that technology, got paid. Then they wanted to cover that up. They thought Hillary was going to win, and none of this would ever come to light. And they thought that the dossier that was fiction, which I think originated in British intelligence and with John Brennan, our intelligence agencies, 17 agencies saying there was Russian collusion. Well, I don't think Russia stole the emails from the Democrats, but the special prosecutor didn't want. He said, Dr. Corsi, we're not interested in your theories about who stole the emails. Dr. Corsi, we're not interested in your theories about Hillary Clinton and John Podesta making money in Russia. These were Democratic operatives that were hired by Mueller, and the FBI went along with them. He interviewed everybody I met and everybody I was dealing with in 2016. Questioned even dinners and lunches I had in New York City that were unrelated. Every aspect of my life was investigated. They brought my stepson in to the grand jury, 40 years old. Well, before I was subpoenaed, I had an old desktop computer, and I wasn't using it particularly, and he took it and erased every contents and gave it to my wife to use. Well, the FBI, in intercepting a text message between him and me, my stepson and me, figured that he was destroying evidence, committing a crime, obstructing justice. And there was a joke. I said, wait a minute, I've got a complete backup of that computer. Why don't you offer? I had told my attorney to offer it to Mueller. Well, Mueller didn't want it. didn't want the backup. But they brought my stepson into the grand jury.
Dr. Corsi, we'll have you back. We so appreciate you, and I know you've got a long way to go to dig out of these holes, but God bless you for not being indicted, sir, and for sharing your story with us.
Well, Kevin, it's always a pleasure to be with you. Thank you, and God bless.
God bless our great friend, Dr. Jerome Corsi. Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning, our time 8:29. Coming up, Eric Macrosh will join us as he gets ready to depart. Wait a minute, Eric Macrosh left us. Well, he's back to say goodbye because he's going on a deployment. We always appreciate Eric and what he does. Gem State hasn't been the same since he left. Plus, the lovable Tea Party Bob will take your calls on Dr. Corsi and President Trump and Sean Hannity. All that before Glenn Beck. First, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, traffic and weather together. Good morning, Dave.
Evans, Every Gabbard.
KIDO Talk Radio, our time is 8:30. Let's find out what's happening in your world. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Kevin.
KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM, your home for Fox News on the radio. Out to the White House. John Decker joining us now. Mr. Decker, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you, Kevin. How are you doing today?
Just trying to keep up with you and the Mueller report and when we'll see it.
Yeah, we won't see it for a few weeks. And even when we see it, meaning the American public gets a chance to see it, there will likely be some redactions. And the reason, Kevin, is because there is likely some grand jury testimony that is contained within the Mueller report. You can't release that because that would be against federal law. There's likely some material in there that is considered to be top secret information, classified information. That's the reason why that can't be released. And there may be some material that may fall under the umbrella of executive privilege. And so we will see it. That's the reason why the DOJ needs to go through the Mueller report page by page, line by line, to make certain that what we see is what we're able to see. And that means that there will likely be some redactions contained into what it is that we ultimately see within the next few weeks.
And then you'll have people wanting to know the meaning of executive privilege and why can't they see everything, even though you have just explained it. That might not be enough for congressional Democrats or other folks, John.
Well, you're absolutely right. You know, it's going to likely those redactions may lead to a very big political and perhaps even legal battle because of the fact that there are items that we won't be able to see. You know, there are some even Republicans who are saying, you know, let's just move on. You know, I mean, let's the Mueller report after 2 years is complete. Let's focus on the legislative agenda. You even hear some Democrats saying the same thing. But there are those, as you know, who even before the Mueller report came out were saying the president ought to be impeached without, you know, any clear reason for impeachment that I saw out in the public domain. And so, you know, those people, I think on the far left, the progressives in the Democrat Party, will certainly never be satisfied.
John Decker, we always love your reports. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Kevin. Have a great day. Talk to you real soon.
Yes, sir. Our great friend John Decker joining us. Phone number's here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. We're joined by celebrity co-host Eric Macrosh joining us now. You have to that microphone right there. That's why it's there. But we should have done that before we had you in. I mean, Eric, you know better than that. You've been on this program for many, many years. Welcome back.
Thanks, Kevin. Great to be back with you. Good to see you.
So you've been living in Florida.
Yep, down in South Florida,
right.
Living the dream,
Yeah.
where it's nice and warm.
How is it different from Idaho?
Well, it's warmer, first of all.
Politically.
But the people aren't better. The people here in Idaho are much better. As I was driving in this morning and listening to your callers, you really do have the best people listening to your show, very informed. People down there are just polarized. It's much more of a split, liberal versus Democrat and conservative around the state. So, you know, it's fascinating because you're a swing state, so your vote actually does probably matter a little bit more, and that's
Well, thank you for making us feel good about ourselves.
well, you should feel
We're
good
nice
about
people,
yourself.
but our votes don't matter, Eric.
Well,
Who booked this
the
guy?
swing states do matter, unfortunately, but it's good to be back home here in Idaho and see you and the listeners.
So politically, though, what's it like? You know, you've got some big heavyweights in Florida. Many people come down to visit, getting ready for the 2020 election cycle. Have you noticed that being in a swing state?
We have, as a matter of fact. We get a lot of the national and federal folks coming down for fundraising campaigns. Sean Hannity's been down a couple of times. President's come down quite a bit. the vice president vacations down there. So
again, who booked this guy? I mean, it's great to be living there.
You've made me who I am, Kevin.
Eric McRush joining us. We're going to take some calls. You hear about that?
I did not hear about that, but I'll take.
We'll take some calls. We'll find out who's on 3, but first we'll go to Tea Party Bob, who joins us now with our great friend Eric McRush on KIDO Talk Radio. You remember Eric McRush? We talk about him all the time.
Oh, I do remember Eric, a very good friend, and sorry to hear that he's down in sunny Florida listening to all the liberals.
Well, it's kind of like being on vacation sometimes, but the reality is that this is where my heart is, Bob. It's good to hear from you.
Need to come back here, my friend. We need more people like you.
Well,
I just have a couple of things I need to touch on this morning. One is this Bill 1159. And
now, wait a minute. Don't you want to say anything more about to Eric? I mean, he's come in all the way from Florida.
I want to hear what he has to say.
Now he's getting in the way of your talking points?
No, I want him to comment on this, okay? Because these are two important bills, and I think he will have some good info on this.
Well, no. By the way, he like you is a Navy man, and the reason why he's visiting, and we'll get to the Tea Party Bob talking points in a minute, but he's going to be deployed, as you know.
Well, a guy of his character we need out there in the military.
Well, thank you,
Although
Bob.
I'd rather have him in the legislature here, but he's not coming back anytime soon, from what I understand.
Any advice about the Swabbies and the Seabees? And I mean, you've been on the ships. What goes on there?
Yeah, it was funny. I was just looking at some of my old pictures of when I was in the Navy yesterday. I found my album from back in 1963, 64. You wouldn't want to see what I looked like in those days.
Well, that really translates well to the radio.
Well, I know, but I'm sure Eric can understand, too, when he first went in. Eric, I don't know whether you deal with a lot of this stuff down in Florida, but we have a ballot initiative that just put Medicaid expansion into effect. And the ballot initiative that they're trying to change, Bill 1159, it basically brings more counties into the mix, but it only allows 6 months for the accumulation of signatures. And as you know, grassroots operation takes a lot longer to get started and get the signatures gathered. So the representative who presented this is basically kind of a rhino shill, and he put this up there. And I think it's basically to keep the power in the legislature by changing the number of rural, and now having 32 counties instead of 19 that you have to have signatures from, and changing the amount of time to 6 months.
Well, Bob, let me just say this. I will tell you that we've seen the people of Idaho do great things. And when Kevin first came to town, I don't know, about 80 years ago or whenever he came to town, but he worked really hard in getting that message out about constitutional carry and things like that here in the state of Idaho.
Along with your friend Greg Pruitt, who has done incredible work thanks to you.
And so we see those kind of measures, and I will tell you that people rise up. And so even if that bill, Senate Bill 1159, I think is what you said it was, even if it goes through and makes this big impact, I will tell you that people have a good heart and just makes them work a little bit harder. And so if it needs to happen and that's the only way it happens, then people need to rise up and make it work.
Well, he's not echoing your comments. Is it time to blast him?
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand why you would not want to give people more time when
Eric.
If you have an organization like Soros Move On or a well-funded organization, they've got the money to do this, and they can do it in that short period of time. This really does restrict the grassroots operations. I know. I've done grassroots. I've been doing it for a number of years.
I guess, okay, first of all, I don't know the details on the bill, so I apologize for that. I didn't come prepared for 1159 this morning.
How dare you?
I know, dare me. That's bad, and I'll be the wrath of Kevin Miller will be upon me here in just a few moments, I'm sure. But I guess, Bob, what I'm saying is that the good people of Idaho understand how to make good changes, and we've seen it happen. And so if those folks, those more progressive folks, are coming in and trying to screw with the things of Idaho.
The libs.
The libs, Liberal Steve out there leading the charge, I guess. But if those things are happening, we've got good people like you that are bringing it to attention.
Oh, he's moving to New Meadows.
Oh, you moving to New Meadows, Bob?
I'm moving out of here. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I need to get away from the traffic.
He could be
and the
going
aggravation.
either there, Midvale. We've heard that British Columbia is recruiting him. We've also heard possibly Parma, Homedale, Fruitland. These places are actively recruiting
Well,
Tea Party Bob.
Well, Bob, if I didn't know you were up for recruitment, may I suggest South Florida?
Hey,
We
listen,
need you down there,
everybody's trying to recruit me for something, but I'm not sure what it is.
too.
And by the way, this urban renewal projects that we have here, they have to stop. And I'm hoping this bill passes because Moyle's right. The people need to vote. If they're going to put their money on the line for these projects, they need to have a say into what's going to happen there.
Absolutely.
And I think Eric would agree
Absolutely.
with that.
I worked on that for 10 years. I agree with that 100%.
Anything else, dear sir?
Yeah, one more thing.
Yes,
on
one
the
more.
Grocery tax.
Hold on. By
On
the way,
grocery tax?
isn't there going to be a hearing today? Then you want to urge people to come down to the hearing?
That's going to be the bill on 1159. The House is going to make a vote on this today. So if you have something to say about it, you need to call your representatives now.
Okay.
Tell you what, Bob, I'll meet you down there on it. I'm going down to the Capitol after this.
I'd love to. By the way, on the grocery tax, they're going to spend $11 million to move the treasurer out of the state house and move representatives in. Where's the money for the grocery tax? You got $11 million to spend on offices.
Right, I know.
But no money to repeal the tax.
You stole my line on that. I've been waiting to use that all morning long.
Oh, well, I'm so sorry I took your thunder.
That was a good one, though. I mean, usually I take yours. So, yeah, they're going to evict the state treasurer for part-time offices. Tea Party Bob, GemStatePatriot.com. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, Eric. Have a good time while you're here.
Godspeed.
Pro-Life joins us now on KIDO Talk Radio. Eric, it's like you haven't left. Good morning, Pro-Life. You remember Eric MacRush, Pro-Life?
Yeah, I do.
Hey, Pro-Life. How are you doing these days?
Oh, I'm just trying to
It's
plant
like
some peas.
time has stood still when you've returned.
It has.
All the cast of characters are here.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
Pro-Life was running for governor once upon a time,
Oh, yeah.
way back in the day.
I'll do
He's
it
still
again.
running, yes.
I'm always running. But anyway, what I want to talk about is Jerome Corsi.
Well, wait a minute. Do you want to say anything else to Eric?
Yeah, come back.
Thanks.
All
I hope to.
Dr. Corsi, who we had on last half hour, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Jerome Corsi, I met him one time in Florida, by the way, at a Constitution Party national convention. We were thinking about having him run for president. I think he would have been the best. But anyway, Jerome Corsi has faith in God, and that's why he didn't give in. And what we have to realize is the amount of pressure that they put on him is about as much as you can get away with without getting into the physical. Now, you take if we had 8 years of Hillary Clinton or, 10, 16 years of total Democrat domination, we'd go to the next level, which is your family gets disappeared or you disappear if you don't go along with us. And we're not that far away from that point. And just luckily, we have Trump, and we're going to maybe avoid that kind of stuff. But the deep state is still really in there. You don't see any CIA, FBI guys resigning and say, yeah, I knew about that, and I want to tell you all about it. There's some of them that are hiding out right now because they want to see where it's going. But anyway, I'm just so thankful to God that we're dodging this bullet somehow. We don't really maybe deserve it. We're so wicked, but maybe there's enough of us left that we do deserve to be able to witness to the people that they need to repent and stop all this communist lying BS that's going on. So that's about all I've got to say.
Very emotional. We appreciate your candor.
Well, hey, we have to just, we have to stop killing the babies. We have to stop the sexual perversion. That's just big time now. If you complain about somebody being transgender, they're going to start marrying transgenders in churches pretty soon. How's that? You know that's where it's headed.
I don't know.
The churches are so wimpy.
I don't know how that would work, but thank you for that insight, Pro-Life.
Yeah, thanks. I'll see you.
Thank you. You heard it here first. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. All right, Eric McRush returns. Let's go back to the phones. No, it's very frustrating because we've got phone calls now. You remember the old days where we have like 2 calls for 4 hours of the program. Maureen joins us now. Good morning, Maureen. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Hi, Kevin. Hi, Eric. How are you? It's Maureen Hatfield.
Hey, Maureen. How are you?
I'm doing really well, Eric. And Todd says hi. He's really excited because I just talked to him, and he said, "Oh, Eric's back." And I said, "Yes." And so where are you headed off to? And we really appreciate you going back into the military. So tell us where you're going.
All right. Well, thanks for that tee up there. Appreciate it. I'm actually doing an individual augmentee assignment over to Afghanistan. Going to be working at a NATO base over there, doing some logistical kind of stuff and foreign military sales. And it's going to be an exciting adventure. It's going to be something that it's got me a little worried sometimes because I'll be outside the wire and working out in town and whatnot, but. We'll be safe, I'm sure, and got the prayers of many, many hundreds of people on our side as we go about our mission over there.
Well, you'll have the Hatfield prayers as well for you. You be safe over there. My son was over in Afghanistan 2 tours as a sniper, so I'm well aware of your family and what they're going through, and all the prayers, and I'm sure everybody in Idaho is going to be praying for you too, Eric.
Well, thanks, Maureen, and it was great to hear your voice. We appreciate your son's service because he's the one that really keeps us safe as we're going about our mission as well. So,
well, all the best to you and your family, Eric. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Maureen. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Back to your days in Idaho when you have someone, big-time activist like Maureen, other folks that you've worked with. What comes to mind about your time here in Idaho? I remember when you bought some property in Canyon County, you said, Kevin Miller, I'm never leaving. And I'm not saying that in a bad way, but, again, you moved to Florida, your family loves it, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, you love Idaho. This is home. Yeah,
it is. And I guess, Kevin, it's kind of one of those things you look back as I've done a lot of self-reflecting, especially over the last few months. My heart is here. The people are just good. And sometimes we get really frustrated with the politics of the world, and it's just 24 hours a day bombardment. But you look back, and as I look back, I've made great friends here, good family. And as I sit across from you and I think about the things and the times that we've had together.
And you're watching the clock. You've learned well.
I just know that that this experience of being here in Idaho has really made me a strong person. And it's because we've made good friends and we've done good work.
It's amazing, though, the miracle of Idaho, because the governor, the usual suspects. Not that way in other places, right?
No, as a matter of fact, I mean that's the other thing too. As I've moved on to Florida, Ron DeSantis he's doing amazing things in the state of Idaho with education reform.
You mean state of Florida?
State of Florida.
See, Idaho's on your mind.
It is. Idaho's,
right.
That should be a tagline. Idaho on your mind. But if we see those kind of governors doing amazing things, and we look back and we go, why isn't Idaho leading that charge on these kind of things? With education reform and really pushing back against Medicaid and expansion and things like that. I know that it can happen, and we just wish that a state like Idaho would take the lead sometimes.
Let me hit you with this. Did you watch the gubernatorial primary? I mean, that was huge. Tommy Alquist, Raul Labrador, Brad Little. Did you?
I followed it. It wasn't. Yeah, it was kind of obviously.
Sure, you had a life, and you were. But I mean, there was that was probably one of the most competitive, highly funded campaigns we'll ever see.
Yeah, and I don't know how much they spent, but it was a lot.
Yeah,
and especially for a state the size of Idaho with population. I think, and people got upset, when Brad Little won.
Right.
People that were on Raul's side said, hey, why didn't we get through this thing?
I was a Tommy guy.
And you were a Tommy guy.
I didn't disclose that till after, but yeah.
Yeah. So, you see these great men running, in this case, great men running
right.
for office, but they're all good. I mean, I think that
sure.
The good heart.
We want to close it out with you first. Traffic and weather together. KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave. Eric McRush, 20 seconds left. Your thoughts?
Well, Kevin, I guess first of all, it's good to be home. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, brother.
This it's been a good experience. I love Idaho. I appreciate all the prayers, and
You're in our prayers, brother.
thank you, man.
God bless.
And you guys stay safe and keep the right fight up.